Okay. Welcome to Malvision. We are doing, shockingly enough, another tier list today.
What a shocker.
Yeah, it's experimental. You know, tier lists are pretty new. I don't know how well it's gonna go. Bit like our Terraria stream, you know, could go either way.
We're entering unknown territory.
Yeah.
Not only are tier lists not unknown territory, we also have been in these locations before.
Yeah.
Before we started, about 10 minutes ago now, I took a swig of water and I forgot how to swallow. But I also knew that I needed to get the water out somehow. Out of my mouth. So I just ended up just throwing it out of my mouth onto the floor. And you were sort of dipping in and out connection-wise, so you didn't really hear the
No,
me laughing.
I didn't catch you drowning. You're
I
right.
Did you know you can actually drown in your own blood
Yeah,
inside yourself?
that's how, like, that's why it's bad.
Mitchell, shut up. That's why your blood's bad. Get rid of it.
Yeah, we need to
There's
get all your
there's
blood
blood
out
under
of your
skin.
body.
You need to peel the skin off and remove the bugs.
They're inside you. They're crawling.
They're crawling under your skin. They're crawling under the surface of Hoxie's 4 in
Alright.
the many biomes of Hoxie's 4,
Very smooth.
for which we are doing a tier list today.
Yeah.
Smooth transition. Go.
Yeah. As you are probably aware, we're doing a biomes tier list. I'm not really sure what my thoughts on the biomes are going into this, so it'll be
I'm
fun
fairly
to find
sure.
out.
I'm fairly sure what your thoughts are.
Okay, good to know. At least one of us knows what I'm going to say. But I think we'll figure out what S, A, B, C, D, and that mean. We'll be surprised if we use
so
D.
this one, yeah. In regards to actually what the tiers mean, I have no idea, but I also don't really think it's possible to figure it out without just feeling it out.
Because there is a way to, like, clarify the biomes, which we've done, like from like very hazardous to like the average amount of hazardous to fairly safe.
Most hazardous to least hazardous, and that, you know, easiest to hardest is also pretty similar.
Yeah.
But another easy way of classifying them.
We could do, theoretically.
But we ain't gonna.
But I think it's fairly self-explanatory. You really just have to count the amount of natural enemies you have to deal with. Like, you know, the hollow brow, stabber vines, the vines themselves, like both variants. It's tough. It's harder. Therefore, it's definitely on the rougher end. Meanwhile,
But we're not doing it that way.
Crystalline Caverns has like one, so they're like fine. But yeah, we are going to be doing it in some other way, which I guess
more emotionally.
Yeah, which I think
that makes the most sense.
Yeah, I don't want
to
say
avoid the obvious one.
It's the ones we like more or less, but
it's
going to be like an encompassing of everything. Like as mentioned, the difficulty, whether or not we feel it's worth doing because of it. Maybe the minerals we get out of it, the hidden difficulties, which I think will definitely show themselves with the first one we're going to do, which I guess we'll get into to explain how we're going to do this.
So as subjective as it's going to be, really the only way to clarify this is like we're ranking them from worst to best, even though it's very subjectively done, but it's the only real way to like put it into words.
Yeah. So we're taking our opinions and putting it down as facts, which is what we do on this channel, and what I do in my entire life. Because everything I say is 100% factual, and that's a fact because I said it.
I spend more time trying to stop him from believing that than actually expressing my own opinions.
Yeah, you're too busy saying that I'm wrong to tell me why, and so I get away with it.
You don't.
I
not in my books.
See, he's saying that
I've written down every time. I've written down every time you're wrong. I've got like 4 folders of times Tyler's been wrong.
You got like a what's it? I've forgotten the name of it. You know, the storage of folders, a drawer. Is that the American term? Do we have a name for that?
Yeah, we called it slidey widey firely hidey.
That's the ones. The drawery wobby wobbies. short term. Point is, Azure World.
You mean the glowy bluey foresty?
Yeah, as we Brits call it.
You know, it literally translates to blue forest in Danish.
That makes sense.
The Azure World. I'm gonna get a cool thing out the way first. Yeah, honestly, the only bad thing about this biome is how fucking dark it is. But it's really fucking dark.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like I think just to also, we mentioned earlier, the Azure World doesn't actually have any natural hazards, right?
It doesn't. It actually has natural booms.
Yeah, it's the only thing where, I mean, some others have slight ones, but these are direct buffs to you. There are the anti-gravity little
It's a bit
areas.
weird. Well, let's cover those. So the gravity one, the weird anti-gravity thing, I find them quite annoying. They're obviously not hazards, but they're not really potent enough. But they're also very rare, so I sort of give it a pass.
Yeah.
And same with the other thing, which people have taken to calling, and I like this, called the error henge. That's
pretty cool.
Yeah, a conglomeration of glowing blue rocks that give you a defense buff, but it also gives enemies a defense buff too.
Yeah, I mean, obviously,
it's more to help you stay alive than to help you kill specifically, because it's actually harder to kill.
Which I think is what quite a lot of the Azure World does, because another thing, which really is the final one, is the cave angels.
It's a big one, really, because they're pretty much always there.
Yeah, and they
great addition.
They basically, like, if you're anyone other than Scout, you have a cave angel, and now you have at least the freedom of a Scout. Probably not the speed, obviously, but you can then just get around with relative ease, which is pretty damn sick. And for this is one biome to have access to. A lot of these are just very positive.
I'm telling you right now, the Cave Angel was the prototype for the future class Hunter's Hang Glider.
Gotta help.
I will.
Okay.
So, the Azure World is... Well, like I said, its main problem is the darkness, but I don't really know how much of a problem that is. It's just annoying sometimes because it adds to the actual aesthetic. It's easily probably the most beautiful biome. It's covered in lovely looking things. I never find the actual physical fauna to get in the way. I'm never these weird trees to get in the way, or the gherkin shuck. This is a gherkin shuck.
I love gherkin shucks.
So those things never really tend to get in the way. It's got cool protrusions hanging from the ceiling that you can use sometimes, like the vines.
Yeah.
But they're like the big thick vines that sort of go from they're in an arc or a U shape.
There's a little one in the illustration if you're wondering what he's on about. Not a little one.
Yeah.
One in there. Just the picture's little.
And the darkness, it doesn't actually create much of it's not really a hazard. It makes certain objectives quite annoying. Like Morkite can be quite hard to see. Dystrom is a fucking nightmare. Bulu Cap's also pretty bad, but it's mostly objectives. I've never really had it make combat or particularly more difficult. It does sometimes sort of bring this very claustrophobic feeling though. Sometimes I don't want to spend too long in the Azure World, but that's not really it's not much of a hit to its quality, in my opinion.
I think
pretty up there.
I think it's a testament to what you have noticed, and like to mention that there's second attempts at stuff, or generally the second gen of editions, with the game modes there was new gens of it. There's just a lot more to this biome, and the same with the other one they added. It's a lot more, maybe not a lot more unique in how it looks, but the way that it presents itself, with it all it has a very dark everything except glowing plants, and the amount of actual biome specific assistance you have there, it just gives it a very unique feel. But it doesn't always mean it's a positive. It can sometimes you just be staring into the abyss, what am I doing here? Where am I? What's going on?
So if we take that away, I would be looking to put this just right up there in A.
Yeah,
but at the same time, its issues aren't actually that real.
Yeah, but I think they've also got to be noted that there is issues. I don't think you can put a thing that has
people do
issues.
complain about darkness quite a bit.
Yeah, And with the darkness, it's not like it actually like dims the lights of your stuff, right? It is purely because the terrain is a dark color, right? So it's just harder to see.
I don't know
terrain.
what they did. It's a combination of things, I think.
Right.
And it's frankly quite impressive, and I don't think it's wholly undeliberate either. I don't think there's enough of a real criticism that can be thrown at this that's potent enough to bring it down, to be honest. I'm not like the biggest lover of the Ezreal world, but I generally quite pleasant.
Yeah.
And it's got a lot of good things in it. It's a hella beaut. It's quite.
Well, the game does often strike you with like really beautiful caves, but the Azure world was designed to be beautiful, I think.
Yeah,
which is why it's as peaceful as it
nailed
is.
It.
In natural hazards, at least, you still got to spawn the same kind of enemies, but yeah, they don't add any more. But yeah, I mean, I think A is definitely solid. I think it might be one of those things where if we notice a lot of other things are going in A, we might have to bring out.
Yeah, because it's definitely not average.
Yeah,
that's what B's meant to be. It's quite, it's far from boring. It's just got a weird thing going on. Its main problem is just a weird sort of abstract thing.
It's just
it is tangible.
It
is tangible, but it's so different from what are going to be the criticisms of the others, except for one. Yeah. But the other one where this applies has got a lot of other problems. So yeah, I think we can put it in A quite comfortably.
Comfortable A. It's possible.
Definitely
S.
not. Well, it's not S. Just that's a very personal thing, though. I just don't like it enough to put it in S.
All right.
And I think if it didn't garner that criticism, which it does, people do complain about the darkness. It would definitely be an S. It's one of the best biomes, easily.
Yeah. And what are the minerals?
Umanite and Cropper.
Umanite is a nice bit of a negative because Umanite is a bit of a piss take of it all, of how common it is.
Quite right. Well, I'm still on the fence, but do you? I'm fairly certain Umanite is just more common than anything else in specifically where it's from, which is the radioactive exclusion zone, which is where it was the most abundant, and I think it's actually just more proportionally there than there is for any other abundant mineral. I think that is actually a thing. It just has more. It definitely than any other biome has of its abundant mineral.
Like you get a Mineral Mania, right? And you'll get like a couple Jadis for that mission, or a couple Bismol, that kind of thing. You get a Mineral Mania, and what just used to be the radioactive. I don't know. Point is, you would literally get caves where there was like 4 Umanite spikes just chilling in each room. They were so common.
It's scarce in 3 biomes and abundant in 1. I don't know if it's really. Yeah, well, that's a weird one. It's a weird thing to consider in terms of the quality of the biome, but once again, not enough to bring it down below A. Yeah. It definitely has reasons to not be an S, though, I think.
Yeah,
a couple,
but
not particularly big reasons.
I've not really thought ahead, but I'm not sure what I would put in S. So I'm just saying, for me, it's a contender as far as I'm concerned so far. But you thought ahead.
What I might put in S. I didn't put one in S though.
Oh.
When I was thinking through it, okay. I don't have an S. I might do by the end.
So we'll see. That's kind of why we have conversations about it to actually.
I know it's not this next one. This one's gonna be difficult for me. So the Crystalline Caverns, one of the less outwardly hazardous biomes, but we both have a share, and you probably more so, of frustrations with it. I know you don't like the big structures, the big crystal structures in general.
The thing is, I think that was a new thing. I'm not sure if you meant, but like, I used to love the Crystalline Caverns. The crystals used to be very convenient most of the time. Like, they'd have the giant sprawling like spider ones that allow you to get high up in the cave as a normal character. And it has Jadis, which I needed a metric fuck ton of while I was playing Driller. So I played it very often. But as of recent, it's just been far more annoying than normal.
Well, they did that is because of a very specific thing, I believe, is because of the white crystals, the white-sided crystals that we've noted for a time could end up taking up entire rooms. This was not intentional.
Yeah.
In a recent patch, they toned down the size of these quite significantly. At the same time, Crystalline Caverns is not. It's far from my favourite, but it's also definitely my cup of tea at the same time. It's simple. It's never too dark. I've noticed it's got some nice natural light sources. It's got the crystals that glow. The lightning crystals obviously glow, and they're never too hazardous. They're sort of like a neutral hazard because they can affect enemies as well.
Yeah.
You can destroy them fairly easily as well. A lot of the times the crystal formations can be quite helpful too. It's not the most interesting. It's got a certain simplicity that gives it a certain beauty, but it doesn't necessarily feel as.
I mean,
I think it's deliberate. I think it's meant to be quite serene.
Yeah, I mean, that's
not the most
like,
exciting.
That's what crystal caves always are.
The Ezra world has more exciting elements, like the cave angels, but Crystalline Caverns is so damn simple.
I think it does need to bear in mind that these are one of the older retro ones, and considering they haven't touched them up, I don't think, as far as I'm aware, it really does hold up.
No, they've touched them all up quite significantly.
Yeah.
I think Fungus Bog's probably the least done to it because it's just been. It was always quite dense. But right. Yeah, I mean, dense biozone, crystalline caverns, and salt pits all had stuff added to them. Salt pits is still very archaic, very simple.
We'll get to that.
But the crystalline caverns can have quite big stuff in it, but it's also quite. But at the same time, what's weird about it, you have these massive crystal formations sometimes, but when they're not there, it's actually very plain.
Yeah,
it's probably it has the most plain terrain. There's very little there's no fauna, so there's no plants.
Yeah,
there's nothing to populate the ground or the walls in particular.
During a crystalline caverns Morkite is a very standard deep rock experience. It's such a kind of sterile environment, with that and the mission. It's you're just kind of playing the game.
And I think when we consider the fact that even its nicer elements can become frustrating or even hazardous, and that it does have free hit terrain, which is always quite annoying.
It's
the only other one to have that. Yeah. And sometimes it generates tunnels that are too thin to dig through, or not to dig through, to walk through, which is combined with the free hit terrain is really annoying.
Yeah,
it's looking about average to me.
Yeah, I think
pretty solidly B tier.
Yeah, I mean, looks wise, it's fine, nothing exceptional. But yeah, I think
it can be quite pretty.
Yeah, which is often in that, but it can be a bit much sometimes, where you just can't get around if you're not a driller.
It's weird. It can be a lot despite how plain it is as well. It's a very weird combination.
It really varies on the cave.
Yeah, also a lot of web splitters.
Yeah, actually, but web splitters.
But I have no real dislike for it. It's mostly positive feelings surrounding it, but it's got some weird stuff going on, and no real big positive points to it either.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
nothing about it is bad enough in my opinion. It's solidly enough designed where I'm putting it in B for now.
I think B. It's a solid B.
It's a solid B.
Solid B. And there's really not much more to say. It's not bad. It's not inherently good either, though.
No.
And this is within deep rock as well. When we're saying things are bad, they're not actually that bad. Still design wise,
very little of deep rock is actually bad.
Yeah.
I don't think anything. Yeah, I kind of want to do a video or probably a podcast about that though.
The fact that just standard wise, deep rock is just better at all games at everything.
Yeah, and it's not even. I don't even want to talk about what we don't like. I want to try and figure out what is actually bad about it. Although that's generally a more difficult conversation.
Well, I mean, yeah,
there's a lot of stuff we don't like, or a lot of things that frustrate us.
Yeah.
But speaking of things that frustrate me, oh boy. Well, go on. Introduce the man.
Is this dense biozone, right?
Yeah. The dense biozone.
Honestly, I think dense biozone is I don't know. I think it would be a B, but it just adds just a bit too much for me. I don't know. I mean,
it's
it has the
in
image
department.
Yeah, it has the I think First of all, looks wise, it's nothing special. It's quite weird.
It's a bit weird. It's not boring, in my opinion. It's got a lot of stuff going on.
Red rock and cyan grass is a really weird combo, and while it does work, it's not that amazing. But then it does just have like an absolute ton of random other stuff going on. Like,
but that is the point of it. It's sort of like the melting pot.
Yeah, like it has the little swarmer eggs on this picture, which is that's just a thing from that only, right? I don't think you can get them anywhere else.
Well, I feel like I've seen them in other places.
I feel like
I swear, but maybe not. Like I swear, like the Exclusion Zone. I feel like, but no. At the same time, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think they are some deaths, but they're not much of a problem. Which is the thing I was going to point out. The actual like generated hazards, I've never found to be too much of a problem. I've never really been killed by like the cactuses that shoot spikes and the weird other things. I have had issues though with a certain enemy type that is quite abundant here, known as the Nadocyte Shocker.
Oh.
These bring the Biozone down from, well,
I would think it was a bit of an iffy beat.
My first thought was B. No, actually, no. B is sort of where I'm thinking. Actually, despite the Nadocytes, but if they weren't in it, though, I might actually be thinking about putting it higher. There's a lot about it I like, but then at the same time, the dense biozone. Well, you know, some of the biomes have bigger case than others, but nothing has more funky terrain generation, or potentially funky. Like Hollow Bow is more generally, it is more consistently like different, but dense biozone has the potential to have some of the most funky, out of whack terrain generation you'll ever see. It gets nuts, and sometimes it's way too much.
I think the dense biozone, you call it a melting pot, which I think is fair, but it is like the mission that you can probably guess the least as to what you're going to experience.
Exactly.
Like, you'll never know what type of cave you're going to get.
Where most of what you're going to be standing on is like those protrusions, the terrace things that hang around. That go from wall to wall.
Yeah, that's the other thing. There's also quite a few like, and they're not helpful like the cave angel, but they're also not anti-helpful either.
Oh, elevator plants.
Like elevator plants, the cave cruisers.
Nice. Those make a horrific noise when they die.
Yeah, I don't get why they do that. I think they just did it for fun because they didn't think anyone would kill it, but they knew they kind of had to make it be killable, so they just added a noise.
I think it's actually like a random unused like death cry or something that they just threw in.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try and find it. Actually.
Okay. Well, it's kind of just like a if the game had a default randomizer, loading into the dense biozone is it. You don't know what type of mission, like, you know, what terrain generation you're gonna get, what type of hazards it's gonna spawn into you. You might enter Cactus City where you're constantly dodging stuff, like, or it's gonna be Swarmer Central where the entire floor of like 2 full caves is just swarmers, and you're just gonna have to deal with that. Like, it is. I don't know. It's interesting. It sounds like a T-Rex roaring. It's like straight out of Jurassic Park, but you're just killing a platform that lifts you up a bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I think it's random wildness.
Its randomness is pretty cool. But at the same time, it's why I can't really have a solid do I like it or not sort of a type of opinion. I like a lot of the things in it. I like the corals, but the thing is, everything about it can be a positive and a negative. When the terrain generation just goes goblin mode, suddenly everything about it is more of an issue, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I don't like it when it gets like that. But that variety and the fact that I generally, aside from the Nadocytes, I find it to be generally quite neat, fairly standard, but also with a lot going on visually at the same time, despite how standard experience it provides when training generation isn't wild. It's pretty solid in general. It's got no glaring issues, but it has issues that can come up, which is weird. It's got no consistent issues. It's annoying.
I think it is just a B. I think if the Crystalline Caverns was a B for its like kind of simple sterilization of the nothingness that it is. I mean, it has some stuff, but you know what I mean. But Dense Biozone is the opposite. It's B because it does so much shit that it's kind of ridiculous, but it doesn't always work. So you kind of got to even it out.
Oh yeah, those two are probably opposites. I mean, I don't know if maybe dense biozone is more of an opposite to sandblasted corridors. I'm not sure. Actually, probably because the crystalline caverns can sometimes be, filled with things, but sandblasted always has big open spaces.
Yeah, but I think B is safe. No, I think B.
Yeah.
B.
Yeah, absolutely. Right.
The
bog.
The fungi's bogus.
Mushroom.
Yeah.
Mushroom.
Which more often than not, it doesn't work. I don't know
Mushroom.
which mushrooms it likes doing that for, but
Mushroom.
yeah.
Mushroom. Sorry.
Mushroom.
What can we say about fungus bogs? Mushroom. One of the most bog standard, just dirt. It's the most standard dirt. It's muddy. It's like
It's dirty.
But what I will say about it, when it's not a pain, it's one of the nicest ones for me to play in. It has a really muggy, dirty, natural atmosphere. But at the same time, the things that annoy me about it are really annoying.
Yeah. I think we'll get them out of the way. The little shits that spew a tiny bit of gas.
Yeah, also you can ignite them to quite spectacular effect and even useful sometimes.
But I don't know if you noticed this, but you ignite them and the gas stays. You have to ignite it twice to actually get rid of the gas. Which
impact axe is quite useful here.
Yeah, well, whether they're not, but I think
when you're dying,
they're pretty good at killing things before you die.
Well, you can't kill them after you're dead.
Well, you can.
Yeah, but not with impact axes. There's only one thing that can kill after you're dead.
You probably could kill it with impact axes.
You know what I want to do?
Throw it
I want to
up
fire
into
a fat boy upwards, and then it lands on everything around me after I die. I want to get killed by the things around me, then the fat boy lands on them. I want to do that.
Yeah. Well, you need the bouncy shot. But yeah.
No, you just fire it up.
Yeah, but wouldn't it detonate when it hits the ceiling?
Yeah, but it's not fast enough to hit the ceiling. It's a really big room.
Okay. Bear in mind the arch. Point is, I think some biomes
arch doesn't
do
apply
kind
to
of
trajectory.
just. I don't care. Some biomes do just kind of disappear into a place where you're at, but the fungus does kind of grab you by the balls and say, "Welcome to the shithole, motherfucker."
You get reminded that you're there quite often. Explosive plants, quite nice generally. Actually, I like those guys. There's a lot of those in the fungus bogs.
Yeah.
Dense Biozone has them actually.
Yeah,
which is weird, but they're different coloured. Oh yeah, Magma Core obviously. I mean, fungus bogs is kind of just the mean Dense Biozone though.
It really is. Yeah. And there is.
It's got it's got some cool things. It's got the mushrooms that you can help for platforming. It's got goo.
Oh, okay. That's actually. Hold on. that's a scale tipper for me.
And the vines that get in the way so badly sometimes, and just in the tunnels. It's like I said, the things that annoy me about it really annoy me.
And also, I've got to admit, the cave generation on this, more often than not, has kind of fucked me over. Very often do they spawn.
I don't think it's meant to be particularly complex.
Yeah, but the fungus bogs, as far as I can remember, is a really big advocate of the crossroad tunnel cave generation.
Yeah,
and it's fond of that, and it's fond of the ones where it's just like a pit, but there's tons of singular spires shooting up.
Oh look, I can see that it's got the eggs in it. It's got Sulma eggs, definitely. You can see those in the preview, the Mines manual.
And those two things and other things, it ends up really being kind of annoying to fight in. Not just because of the hazards, but the actual generation itself. It
can get annoying. I find this happens with the vines, though, specifically. The tunnels where the vines just cover, you almost can't see sometimes. Yeah. And then there's also the goo, which just stops you from moving, which creates some really annoying scenarios.
That have killed me multiple times as well. Really, I mean, I probably died quite a few times to various caves, but the fungus bogs have really done me in directly quite a few times. With the things that it spawns. So, but I don't inherently want to say that it's a negative, that it's quite difficult, but the negatives, the issues that it provides are on the level of annoying, not just hard, which another biome also rides this line. But yeah, the slowness of the goo, the annoyingness of the terrain, the the literal grazing but persistent of the little like fungus plumes. It just, I don't know.
It's got the glow trees. It's got geysers. To help
geysers have killed me quite a few times.
Which are bad. Which, well, yeah, you know, if you're a dum-dum, they're not great. I don't know. I think we should probably put it in C.
I want to put it in C. I don't think it's
fairly
bad.
Standard, but it's got some really annoying elements. I generally like being there when it's okay. Like, I like the atmosphere of it. I actually quite like the very natural look of it, unlike something like the Magma Core, which shares a similar number of hazards, but just has quite a very dim, annoying traversal element.
And I think it also bears in mind that, you know, like, the... Dense Biozone is supposed to be like kind of just the forest of the game, really. You know what I mean? Dense Biozone is kind of what it means. But it's really alien. But the Fungus Bogs is quite earthy. Very earthy. You know,
it's the most naturalistic looking biome, really. I guess Glacial Strata is similar to just ice.
Yeah.
But
cool. It doesn't feel that alien.
But it's got some really annoying elements and not much good when it comes to its features. But you know, mushroom. It's not that
it does have mushroom.
But still, yeah, I think it's definitely below Dense Biozone, so we can put it in C for now. All right, we can move on
to the spoken of. Shut up. I forgot the name.
Glacial Strata.
Yes, that's the name. Honestly,
Christmas time. There's no need to be afraid. It's my favourite biome. Considering
how prominent the Glacial Strata is, it kind of just does disappear into the rest of the maps for me. Like, I don't know. It is really cool in that it's very dynamic in that you can literally, if you're using like a flamethrower, you will melt away the terrain, which is pretty sick, and stuff like that. Like, it's not just ice decorative; it is ice full on. You know, playing.
Oh yeah. It's not decoration. It's definitely the Glacial Strata.
Yeah.
I fucking love the Glacial Strata. It's my favourite biome, easily. I love pretty much everything about it, except the cold. But it's a necessary component. I mean, like the fact that you can get frozen, and there are ways to prevent it. But sometimes those OACs the hot springs are a little bit too uncommon. Sometimes, I think it needs to be another way, because otherwise you just can't change. And then the blizzards. So the only two things that really annoy me about it are the blizzards and, well, not even the crevices. The crevices are pretty easy to avoid. There's no earthquakes, unlike the Magma Core. The crevices just open up when you step on the wrong ground.
Yeah.
You have black ice, which I don't think you like, but it's nice.
Yeah, I do find it quite annoying, but it is also fun.
Things tend to avoid it. You never have to do important things really on black ice. The machine units don't seem to spawn on it. It's like because it's not normal terrain. It's got the stalactites that you can use to your advantage. It's got the platforms in the walls that you can shoot.
It is a very pointy biome. Like, often, there'll be like spikes
that you
everywhere.
can often use to run up as well. They're often quite useful. It's got a parkour to it. It's got the snow, like just big snow mounds that you can use to break your fall. It's got the like ice, like exploder things that I use a lot of the time to like freeze groups of enemies. It's just a lot of, it's real cool, pretty cool, I say.
Get it? Cool.
Easy A for me. It's got some pretty pervasive, annoying elements, but in general, it's got a lot of nice stuff too. I think more nice stuff than a lot of them. It's pretty beautiful, in my opinion. It's one of the most consistently beautiful. The ice effects are really quite spectacular.
I think, considering, like, you know, every place has a hazard, right? Generally, I think the ice one is a pretty strong and deadly and pretty unavoidable one. But in the end of the day,
it's got like a single big pervasive hazard. It's really the only one that's actually a problem.
Yeah.
The other stuff, because like obviously the blizzard just leans into that. The blizzards do annoy me.
Yeah.
I'll say that, but I like everything about it enough where it sits pretty solid DNA for me. It's like, that's why I said I can't really. This is what I said about not being able to pick an S. Even though it's my favourite biome, I wouldn't put it in S still.
Yeah, well, I think it's because we have a unrealistic idea of what an S would be, which is just a biome that isn't in the game, where there are no negatives. You just have fun there, and it's beautiful, and it's one
Well, no,
mining
because I
terrain.
think there was possibility for one that, like, the Glacial Strata would be that if you didn't have the blizzards, because I think things that slow you down are just annoying from a design perspective and just aren't fun. There can be more interesting and well-designed hazards.
Correct me if I'm wrong. They added it. When there was an update, not like a full one, obviously, but like a little patch update, where when a blizzard occurs, the glyphids
That's
also get
true.
lost or slow
It's
down.
sort of just
Was it slow
something you
down?
just have to, yeah. It's sort of just something you just have to sit through, really.
Yeah,
It's kind of pointless to me. It's just there to freeze you.
yeah,
which is
which
annoying.
it can sometimes, but being frozen is not preferable, especially if you're in the middle of fighting
Also-
for your life. But
Also, Frost Praetorians can temperature shock themselves, and that's funny as fuck.
that is what I was going to say as well. The variants that this makes are the safer versions of them, right? Like,
Oh yeah, by far. I don't think the Frost Praetorians are slower, but they're by far the least deadly out of the
yeah,
three.
the thing that I really hate the most about them being their like acid spray is literally doesn't do anything. Like, oh, I'm slightly cold. Who gives a shit?
Yeah, it doesn't damage you. It's
No,
just really weird.
it doesn't.
It kind of should.
Yeah,
It
but
definitely should.
currently it doesn't, which makes
Frost
Praetorians
bombers
a non-issue.
are weird. I don't think they're worse or better.
Yeah, I mean, bombers aren't that bad anyway, but yeah, it really is the Praetorians that they become a non-issue in the Glacial
Yeah.
Strata. So it actually kind of makes the game easier, like for me at least, because I find Praetorians such a big issue. Like, I don't know. I think definitely A. I'm not fighting you on that, but I'm also saying that once again, for S tiers, it's viable. It's fighting for it. Which if as you planned, we get to the end and there isn't an S, I think we are going to have to push one for
It's
it.
also not crushingly dark. It has no like ambient source of light even, but it generally is quite visible.
Yeah,
generally.
it often is kind of just glowing, like just like,
Yeah, it's glistening. In fact,
yeah. All right, so A.
very pretty. Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah. Now, this
Bruh.
this is a spicy one because I don't think I 100% agree with what I'm about to say, but
I
I'm
don't
gonna
know if I
say it
agree
anyway.
with what we said before as much as I do.
I
So go on.
find fucking hell, Hollow, even though I can't actually legitimately pronounce the second word, I think it's my favourite biome. I think it is legitimately the most beautiful of the lot, and I think I'm so
I think
glad.
beautiful is a strange term.
I'm
not going to deny its tremendous aesthetic appeal. I think
Yeah.
beauty is a weird term.
yeah,
I think it's kind of
Majesty.
inaccurate. Yeah, sure, why not?
feels a bit better. But yeah, I think I'm gonna say that, but then follow it up with that. It has a lot of the issues that a lot of the other biomes have, in that it really throws hazards at you, right? Like as mentioned, Stabbervine, the literally directly try and kill you, and when you didn't know how to deal with them, they're pretty rough. Once we did, they became a non-issue, but for a while they were killing me pretty bad. But then there's the little vines that will kind of encroach and really constrict you in an area and like be a proper annoying thing to deal with. The giant vines that will stab the shit out of you. And there's just a lot of hazards. Like that is, normally that's a bad thing, and it kind of is. But there's also, I don't know, it just looks too good. I can't like.
I'm going to lay it all out. The Hollow Bow is essentially like a crash course in actually very well designed hazards.
Yeah.
The Stabbervine, first of all, those guys rule, in my opinion. They're one of the best
Stationary at least, or
stationary enemies, biome like hazards that there
Yeah.
is. The normal red vines are really cool because they can actually be quite useful. They're very easy to get rid of. You can just shoot them. It's the easiest way for me
Or
because I
just
don't like being
tap
slowed
with them
down
with
by
pickaxe.
pickaxe.
It's
Yeah, I like doing it
annoying,
from
but it's the thing.
I like doing it from a distance because then you can just keep moving.
Yeah. Fair.
I like to shoot them beforehand. It's got the goo plants that aren't really a hazard. They're actually very useful generally if you can. They can be useful. It's got bees. The bees are no different to the sandblasted. They're kind of annoying, but they're
Also not that bad.
They're not very powerful. The biggest problem I have with the Hollow Bow is the really big vines,
The one with
only
the-
because
yeah.
they damage you a lot more than you'd like them to.
Yeah.
Because they're actually a very interesting aspect of it. They're sort of the point of the hollow bough is that it's like a giant tree that's being invaded by red vines. They're an invasive. The red vines are an invasive species. So the fact that they form a part of terrain, but they're also like intelligent and like invading the biome is such a cool idea.
Yeah.
But I wish they were more like terrain. I think the big red ones that are literally terrain. I don't like how often I get hurt by them, to be honest. But that's my only real issue.
I think, it is like I don't know. They're not going to really kill you, but they might get you killed because even if you're taking the slight amount of damage they do, it's not healing your shield. You know what I mean? You are getting weaker and you're not healing. So as much as it doesn't feel like an issue at the time, you can kind of die because you couldn't heal thanks to them. But I do think that just it's the only negative I can think of is that they have the what we would call maggots, but in the thing they're like corpse feeders. Yeah, I find them so grotesquely disgusting that I almost turn around to the second I see them, or at the very least I drop a satchel charge on them every time. But yeah, I think it as you mentioned, it like has lots of hazards, but it really does just do them well. But it's also on the other side, it's quite dark.
It's not that dark though. It's not as you will dark. It sort of rides this line. I think it's in a similar vein. It's in a similar position to the fungus bogs, in my opinion. It's not really pretty much the same as that. I think when it comes to brightness.
I think it's only because the tendrils are very vibrant, right? But then the dark brown that is like the wood can just disappear. Like,
well, I think maybe we should talk about that. Just
yeah,
one of the best things about the hollow bough, like this, it's more theoretical, but it really does apply to the hollow bough more than anything else. It's just conceptually so strong.
Yeah,
it delivers on a premise almost perfectly, and it's a really genuinely interesting premise. It's like I remember when they announced that they were changing their plans from the caustic mire to the hollow bough. I thought, this just looks like fungus bogs with red spikes. I was a fool. It's one of the most visually and conceptually interesting. It's the most conceptually interesting biome in the game, rivaled probably only by Exclusion Zone, but that's only because of like the mystery behind it. The hollow bough is like this. It's like there's a war going on between the wildlife. It's so. I love it. I love the hollow bough. I'm not kidding. It's not my favourite, but I really do like it. And we gushed over it a lot before.
Yeah, and I think
it's going to be the most hazardous one. No, actually, sorry. I shouldn't say that. I was about to say it's going to be the most hazardous one that ends up in A tier. That might not be true by the end of this.
I'd be surprised. I don't know what, but like I think it kind of only is my favorite due to process of elimination. I don't particularly like most of them. I don't hate any of them really.
Well, I realised my answer for that isn't as clean cut. I don't know if Glacial Strata is actually my favourite. I know it's not this. I like the hollow bough, but it's not this.
Yeah, it's just that it's just so visually striking. You know when you're playing it. It has
always. You're never not aware that you're in the hollow bough.
Yeah. Sometimes, admittedly, it's a negative. Like I remember I was playing with James, and he doesn't play much, and we got one on the hollow bough, and the cave generation was, frankly,
it can
horrendous.
Be pretty wild. But to me, it's always more workable when the dense biozone acts up. I don't know why. I've seen a lot. You see a lot of very extreme terrain generation in the hollow bough, but I always find it to be workable. I never find it to be too much of an issue. I don't know why, because it's just as extreme as some of the others. But...
The thing is the hollow bough has like cave generation, which is like normal, but then it fills up the cave with the tendrils, which really, I wouldn't say clutters, but it like what you would normally walk into a big room and look around in is now just a mass of tendrils that you have to kind of climb upon, and climbing on them hurts you, so it does get kind of rough navigating around. But most of the time, that's not an issue.
The bloated vines are too much, like I get annoyed with them, but in general they just aid to the concept, so I can't really fault them too much. What a great place. What's your personal ranking for this?
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, I think once again it's them using the knowledge they learned from the first load of maps and just kind of making a better hazard one. So yeah,
it's like it feels like it does feel like a merger almost between like the dense biome and the fungus bogs, but better in every way.
Yeah,
almost.
Well, I think I don't know. Maybe, but I really
arguably more hazardous than
I think conceptually, but I think it could be
that's what raises it up. That's what makes every element of it more interesting.
Yeah, but I think it's more of a thing with what's next, and I guess we'll start onto this Magma Core, because Magma Core was the difficult map. It's the thing that whenever you go on, you know you're gonna have a hard time just because of the terrain. Like, in everything it throws at you.
Well, I'm going to have a very different reason for hating this fucking abomination.
Well, I mean,
first of all,
the list is going to go for a while.
Now, it seems obvious, right? Everyone's just like, oh, Magma Core, it's magma, it sucks, it's horrible, it's painful. Yeah, it is. It's going to be in D tier. It's the worst, but it's not as simple as that.
I think we'll do the surface level, like we'll just go through like the hazards like we have all the others, the normal ones.
Magma geysers.
Magma geysers are pretty devastating.
Actually, we'll talk about hot rocks in a minute.
That's the hidden threat.
It's not hidden though; it's the hidden boon.
Well, yeah. There's the like exploding plants again, but this time they are slightly worse due to, as mentioned, the hot rocks. There is the little fire ones, little fellas, which as a driller, they do not hurt you. You can literally
That's a good point.
You can just walk through them and they do nothing, which is pretty cool to do because I feel invincible when I do it. I'm like, oh, look at this Harry, he's like climbing on the wall, he's trying to get around them, and I'm just walking through it, just without a damn in the world.
Hoxquakes, they call them.
Yeah.
So this is, when it comes to the actual features of this biome, this is probably the worst one. Earthquakes that just like grind you to a halt and can open up crevices of hot magma anywhere.
Yeah,
it's whack ass.
Not to mention these crevices can be gigantic. Like they can like usually you can have like a nice big sizable room. Maybe you're about to fight a dreadnought. Cave opens it up. You now have a giant hole in the middle of the room. And if you don't know an engineer, you kind of got to deal with that. Like, and
the only thing that comes close to a boon is just the hot rocks, just the magma, the hot ground. But it's not a boon. It's meant to be a hazard, but it makes you move slightly faster because, you get hot feet. But it still hurts you. So it's a boon disguised as a hazard. There's not a single outwardly positive thing about this biome. I don't like it visually. It's quite visually striking. It's like hell.
Yeah.
It's like dark and full of fire.
Volcano, that
darkness.
Yeah.
Just grey. It's very dark. It's visually striking, but not conceptually particularly unique or interesting. It's quite a slog to look at often and be in.
I don't agree with that. I think generally most of the time, it's like mostly dark, but then it will kind of like light itself up, and it can look pretty damn nice when it does that. Like you walk into a cave, and then like the fire geysers and the little ones are just like lighting up the area, and it can look pretty good. But yeah, I don't know. It's just. It really is one of those things where it just throws hazard upon hazard upon hazard at you, and eventually it just becomes too much. It's just
like you're allowed to have hazardous biomes, but it's not. It needs to be balanced with certain more pleasant elements and certain more. It's like taking the edge off. Like even just the fungus bogs, just like the whole mushroom thing. It's just like and a little bit of levity. There's nothing fun about the Magma Core. Can I get to the big thing that no one talks about, but I find to be absolutely
I don't even know what you're gonna say.
Arse bruising. The walls, they're like fanned, they're like jutting out like diagonally, and like the ceiling, there's always like shit tucked away between like the walls in the ceiling.
I've noticed that,
it's
but
always
only
secondary detected and nitro. It's always the stuff there. It's always a pain in the ass to mine stuff there. It's horrible.
Generally, I don't notice it but sometimes there are some generations where the floors do that. and you get the really weird floors
where
it's you look like you're inside of like what's it, like the piano, like and you're like swinging your arms. You're inside one of them.
What?
Well, there's like it's not an actual piano, but it's like played like a piano, and it's handheld, and you got to like squeeze them together, and like
an accordion.
Yeah, that's the one. It's like you're inside an accordion with all the wrinkles and folds that you kind of have to mine around.
Yeah.
And it's pretty. Yeah, it's pretty atrocious when you have to kind of deal with that.
All of this added together with the fact that there's not really anything nice I can say about it. That's why I want to put it in D, because there's nice things I can say about the fungus bogs, and there's nice things that we did say. So my pick is D.
I think once again, it's
conceptually it delivers on its premise. By the way, I should say that.
I think
none of these biomes are badly designed when it comes to premise and just the visuals in general. The game always looks lovely, it's just, but still.
Yeah. I think really, I mean, I think it was just a bit of a miss with that kind of terrain generation, that they went for a really weird spiky one or like a wavy one. That kind of just went poorly.
And it's also not very open either.
Yeah, and the whole slowing you down while the earthquake is occurring is kind of 2 strikes too many. Otherwise, I think it would be fine. You know what I mean?
It would be.
It would probably maybe not be B, but like C, it would be the same kind of level as that. If they had some actual like other positive other than the slightly faster movement speed.
Frankly, I'd like the addition of something more extreme, like actual proper volcanoes, like underground volcanoes would be really cool. And I've seen that's where the Hoxquake come from anyway. It's probably some kind of eruption.
I imagine you're like inside.
But there should be places where there are actual volcanoes almost. Yeah, still. I'm not going to just like dance around the fact. I'm not going to dance around the fact that it's my least favourite biome.
And I'm not going to dance around the fact that I agree with you.
It seems obvious, but it's not false.
I think if we were to do a poll...
We're not pretending to not like it.
I think if there was to be a poll that was to get done, I think... admittedly, the Hollow Bruh is probably going to actually beat out the Magma Core. I think people actually dislike that more than Magma Core.
It's one of our unpopular opinions, I think.
Before they added those two, Magma Core reigned supreme in the shittiest place to be.
Yeah.
Second up being really the bogs. So yeah, I think if there was going to be a D, it was going to be Magma Core, and I think everyone kind of knew that. Because it's just annoying and difficult. And most of the time, not worth it. It's like, just go somewhere else. Wait for your mission to change. It'll be safer and easier. Like, just it's not worth it. But yeah, I think we said all we need to say. Any final words to Magma Core, Harry? Do you want to tell it to go fuck itself, maybe? Alright, apparently he doesn't. I think he's stunned for words. He can't bring himself.
I was just watching the preview. I'm just watching like the previews in the miner's manual for like the biomes. On the radioactive exclusion zone, I just saw like a maggot twirling in the air.
Yeah.
Speaking of which,
we
didn't even mention the maggots in the fungus bogs and the Magma Core. They're bad
true.
Men.
They are actually hazardous.
Magma Core specifically.
Magma Core, they are actually kind of deadly.
Yeah.
I've detonated one on accident and it has killed me before.
Radioactive exclusion zone.
Purpose, but point is. Yeah.
There's 2 problems with the radioactive exclusion zone. Zip lines, because of the radiation crystals.
Yeah. No, actually, yeah. No,
Number 2, lack of nuclear detonator. Apart from that, this was the other contender. I adore the radioactive exclusion zone.
I think it, the kind of thing we mentioned
it's
about
salt pits but cool. Salt pits but cool.
Crystalline
caverns but cool.
Because I mentioned that the crystalline
deadly
caverns
and cool.
Normally crystal caverns tend to be like really nice, like the crystals are glowing, but the crystalline caverns don't, right? Really, most of the time. The radioactive exclusion zone, they are. They're glowing. It's kind
You
of
want an
just,
extra foot?
it's kind of just
Come here.
beautiful. It has Umanite, which
It's beautiful
is probably
but deadly.
it's like
my ex-wife.
yeah, it's like Umanite's like one of the and in the radioactive exclusion zone, it's like the only mineral that actually works. You know what I mean? That it legitimately fits
Well, it's
in with
also
the
got
surroundings.
enol pearls. Fits in the enol pearls fit too.
Actually-
It's just grey.
Actually, yeah, Magnite works and Magma Core as well. But
So
yeah, I think the minerals work with it as well. It just all just
I
works.
just saw the twirling maggot again. I just saw the...
Stop looking at the twirling maggot and
I don't know.
concentrate.
There's so many good things I can say about it. It's got pog plants.
It does have pog plants.
We've
That
got
is
pog
true.
plants. So about the radiation crystals, so specifically, they're the most pervasive hazard it has, and they're very common, but they do affect enemies, and they just make it. They aid to the visual appeal. Like
Yeah.
radioactive exclusion zone is eerily beautiful. In my opinion, it's
Yeah.
got this really distinct feeling. Like, that's why I love so much about it. It's very beautiful, but it's also very eerie. It's like ghostly.
What
'cause you have-
happened
it's
here?
like dead terrain, dead trees.
Yeah.
It's just
Isn't there
weird.
like
It's
there's
cool,
also
it's,
like
cold.
kind of like particles as well, like yeah, like I think there is like
There's
dust
eyes in the
particles.
walls.
Is that only there?
Yeah,
Oh damn.
I think so. Well, yeah, because they're like they're like tumors, they're growths. It's just like everything's just mutated. Which brings me to the not an issue. Radioactive Praetorians are kind of funny.
They are.
I know that you prefer them, I think, to normal Praetorians.
Yeah.
I don't really know. I guess I like normal Praetorians a lot because, as an engineer main, I've never really had much issue with them. So,
Yeah, you're not as resistant to these ones, are you?
but radioactive Praetorians, they're more difficult because I tend to stay quite close to Praetorians when I'm circling them to get to the behind. You can't really do that with the radioactive ones because their attack is a circle. They're also faster, but they're not much more difficult. And poison is generally because once you're out of the field, you're no longer being damaged. Praetorians,
Yeah.
they spray over time, a damage over time effect.
Yeah, I think yes,
so-
because I was trying to think like, then why don't I have this issue? And I realised it's because I'm a driller main, so I don't need to go to their ass. In fact, I damn well don't. I literally flamethrower, I go through it, doesn't matter. Cryo, I can hit them
The
anywhere,
weird thing
freeze
is,
them.
though, everything else, all the other radioactive creatures, it's mainly just the bog standard glyphids, though. So it's Praetorians and Grunts. They're also faster, though. But then the Exploders, I like the Exploders a lot more.
Yeah.
For a lot of reasons. First, because obviously you can use Exploders to affect enemies, but in this, it's more less situational because
normally the exploders kind of explode ahead.
it's like a lingering,
yeah.
field of damage, so there's a good chance that enemies will walk into it. And they also don't ruin the terrain. They don't ruin the lovely terrain. Because also, when it comes to terrain generation, it's one of the I think it's one of the nicest in terms of the areas that you come across, like the ground that you're working with. It's never particularly treacherous in terms of traversal. It's always fairly simple.
It is.
Well.
It is really like often the only issue ever navigating around is the radiation crystals. That's it. You're never going to have a bigger issue than them, and sometimes they're just not.
Yeah.
Sometimes they are quite bad. Like you mentioned the zip
I mean,
line.
it's a hazard. They're worse sometimes than they're not. It's just it just varies.
Yeah.
Just how it is, and it's just got so many just
It's
cool
also got
neat aspects to
cobwebs,
it.
but I think some other ones
It's a
have
lot of
them.
cobwebs.
But I think they have more.
They all have cobwebs.
Yeah.
No, I think salt pits is not salt pits. Fuck, Crystalline Caverns is more cobwebs because of damn web splitters.
Admittedly, the two do kind of blur for me, mainly because they both actually just have I think Radioactive's a bit whiter, but they really do just have white walls.
Yeah, it's all free hit terrain as well.
Yeah.
Which is probably the thing that stops it from being one of the things that stops it from being my favourite. It also doesn't have many nice things, but it's one of the most neutral. They both are, which is kind of weird.
Yeah.
The greyest biome is also the most neutral when it comes to. There's just nothing helpful in the radioactive exclusion zone at all. Actually, there's no features that help you. There's only a couple hazards, but it's just, to me, it's much more. It's just a cut above the Crystalline Caverns. You know, it's nowhere. It doesn't have the capacity to be as frustrating as the Crystalline Caverns. In fact, it's just very cool conceptually,
I
and
think
just nice to play in general.
I think it really does come down to that, though, because really, like, it is slightly more annoying than Crystalline Caverns, as in, like, you know, the radioactive pylons are worse than the electric ones. But then it does just come down. It does just come down to the generation. That the Crystalline Caverns will more often than not get in the way. Meanwhile, nothing really does in the
it's
radioactive.
Just radioactive exclusion zone. It's one of the most. It's one of the most plain, but it's always appreciated because it's more, to me, it's more serene and more beautiful more often than not than the Crystalline Caverns, which is kind of weird. But I think that's true, and it's a combination of that and it being more easy to play on, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I don't know what I don't see. I'm saying these things, but I don't know exactly what I like about it so much. But I know I like it conceptually, though. It's very cool. Lovely. It's second to the Hollow Bow in that department, in my opinion. Second, though, not rivaling.
That is what I'm thinking currently, because like I do agree with you that it is very nice, but I'm not sure if I put it in A. But I think that
the reason I would, because I prefer it so much more than the Crystalline Caverns.
Yeah.
Why I put it in A, and I have to put it in A because it's contended for my favourite. But if you think it believes in B, if you believe it should be in B, I'm willing to bend to the knee.
But I think we could maybe do with bringing the crystallines down to a C. Because I think it's general nothingness that is it, with only really negatives, kind of just makes it, you know, it's just not that fun to play. Like, it doesn't really add anything, and only with just the annoyances.
But when the crystals don't get in the way, the Crystalline Caverns is one of my favourites just for testing things out, I found. I don't know why, but that happens a lot. Just like, it's almost like a sandbox in a way.
Exactly. I don't think that's inherently a good thing. Yeah, I mean, when we put the mining, or I wanted to put the mining missions actually kind of lower. I don't think we did in the end, but
yeah,
I don't know. I could put it in A, but I don't think it's going to go any higher.
So, okay, we can put it in B, and I think I probably agree with moving the Crystalline Caverns down. When it comes to the less hazardous ones, it's probably on the lower end.
Yeah.
Although, actually, the next two are probably going to end up in that sort of area, in my opinion.
Right.
So we'll get
see
to it. So, all right, maybe we shouldn't move anything yet.
Okay, I'll put the Crystalline Caverns in B, and we'll see.
And radioactive exclusion zone in B as well.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Fine.
And Freddy World Rig, for now, the order in which they're in doesn't actually mean anything. We could do later.
No, I don't. I don't think most people really think that. I think it's just a you thing.
I don't think it's a me thing. It's just like a 50-50.
It's definitely not just a you thing.
Yeah. Some people do it in that way to even get the tiers down even more to what they think, but some other people don't, and you really have to kind of elaborate which one you are.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Right. We're going to the beach.
Better bring your pits.
Oh, it's a real mixed bag. Sandblasted corridors.
What?
You'll understand pretty soon. Maybe you should go first, though.
Why? It's just that salt pits was next for me, but we'll do that.
Oh, what? That is mixed up.
Yeah.
That is a mixed
bag. Don't know how that happened.
It doesn't make sense. We're using the same tier list. I clicked reset before I started, so everything's back where it started.
I didn't touch anything either.
You monkey.
I didn't do anything. But yeah, we'll do Sandblasted, because I think you want to, you really want to talk about Sandblasted more than Salt Pits. I know that, so...
They both have a certain local issue with. But that's not really where I want to go with this, because I actually kind of forgot about Trollers for a moment.
Alright, yeah.
Sandblasted Corridors, I don't know if bland is the right word, because it's not that bland. It's very clear what it is. You definitely feel like you're in the desert. It's dry, it's full of bees. I don't know if they live in the desert. I hate bees. They're in my foreskin. What? Well, actually, there's not good things to say about the Sandbox Corridor. There's also a lot of bad things I can say. Good things, always very open. Lots of nice plains to fight on. One-hit terrain is wonderful.
It is nice.
It's really great. Wind tunnels. Wind tunnels can suck a fat one.
They are pretty
blown
bad.
across the room. I hate getting pushed into the interior of tunnels. They're annoying, but only when you get affected by them. I've actually used them to some positive effect before. I've used them to almost neutral to positive effect before, but I don't like them. I'm not a big fan of the bees, but they sort of need to be there to give it something. I like the little exploding plants that sort of fly up. They're quite funny.
They're a bit weird. Like,
yeah,
they're
they
kind
don't
of
belong.
just out of nowhere.
What else does it have? It's got the trees.
Well,
it's got.
First of all, why isn't there cactuses? Why isn't there cactuses in the Sandblasted Corridor? Why is Harry dying?
There's no cactuses. There's no cacti in the Sandblasted. What the fuck? What the fuck, Ghost Ship?
How is I don't know.
How has no one brought this up? It's the desert.
Yeah.
It's the Tatooine. Tatooine doesn't have cactuses.
George Lucas, what the hell?
Lord Dukas.
Yeah, but there's also the fact you haven't mentioned it, I think I'm also going to probably hurt it by mentioning this, but there is there's sandstorms as well.
Sandstorms kind of suck. Trawlers. We can talk about trawlers. Trawlers can go die in a hole.
Once again, I don't hate trawlers as much as you do.
I don't know, but I don't see how you. I don't think anyone. It's not possible to like them.
No, I don't. By any means.
There's no way to like. They're horrible. Like
they are
essentially doubles the amount of things that can take your control away, because there's at least just as many, if not more, an equal amount of those to.
Yeah, I mean, you can walk into a sandblasted room and there's trawlers on the floor, Macteras in the sky, and cave leeches on the ceiling. And at that point, you're like, what's the fucking point? You're gonna get grabbed by something, you know.
My control will be taken away. I don't mind Mactera grabbers or cave leeches in general. I don't like the fact that a biome has one of those specific to it.
Yeah. Although, I mean,
it's not a good idea.
You know
in my
what
opinion.
it is, right?
Not particularly.
I'm pretty sure they're a reference to the. I don't actually remember the name of the movie or the thing, but I think it's like a giant snail that digs through the floor. It's like a old ass horror movie. I think they're actually called trawlers. So
that Tremors.
That's the one. Tremors.
Oh my god, Tremors with Krevin Bacon.
Yeah, and they dig under the floor and they'll pop out and fucking murk people. I haven't seen the movie. Point is, I'm pretty sure they're a reference to them, or at least they were inspired by they were doing a sand, because this is also set in the middle of the America, or that kind of Texas area, I think. Point is, desert. And then they were like, okay, let's do a reference to an old horror movie instead of adding cactuses. This is a good idea.
Well, you did mention The Thing. There's a whole track in the soundtrack that is a reference to The Thing. Yeah. It's the first piece of music they came up with.
Well, as mentioned,
was inspired by the theme from The Thing. Where the theme for The Thing is just... Dum, dum.
Yeah.
Dum, dum.
That's yours.
No, that's... Well, you see, I can't, play them.
No, don't, please don't. But I think it's something that is worth noting, that they were, at the very least, very much inspired by horror when they were making this game. Like, the Glyphids in concept are a lot scarier than they are in game. It kind of carried over with the concept of trawlers, and you mentioned the Thing soundtrack. So, I don't know, I think it's pretty interesting, but we'll get into that at some other point, maybe a podcast on the horror and deep rock. That's something I think I could talk about.
Oh my god, you came up with an idea. The podcast.
That's so rude. I don't need to, because you're always coming up with them, so it saves me the effort. But
because you don't... Anyway. Okay, I need to bring up another negative.
Oh, Shakara.
It's sort of the inverse of the problem with dense biozone. With dense biozone, sometimes you get horrific terrain, sometimes you don't. Sandblasted corridors is like you know when you're going to get it. It's specific mission types. It's
Yeah.
like medium length mine expeditions, maybe just mine expeditions in general, and point extractions. Point extractions on the sandblasted corridors are, shall we say, not nice. I don't know. I couldn't come up with a
Not
proper.
very pleasant.
No, they suck ass. They're really like horrendous. The terrain generation just doesn't know how to handle it. And then in mining expedition, you tend to get more often than not. It seems to be sandblasted corridors. More often than not, you get these horrible big vertical tunnels that I hate dealing with. I don't know why I don't know if it's actually specifically sandblasted, but it feels like it. Oh, maybe it's
the
just
ones that are
medium length
just
mining
the ones that are
expeditions. I don't know.
just gaping holes, like the ones that go straight down.
Yeah, it feels like getting more of those.
Honestly, I mean, I haven't played Sandblasted that much, but that's dense biozone for me. The ones that I assume those for, either that or maybe fungus bogs, but I'm pretty sure it's dense biozone where very often it'll just kind of fall into
I
a
feel like
hole.
I've never gotten them. That's surprising. I feel like you get a lot of that on other missions. It matters the most on mining expedition though, because it's the linear mission type where you have to get past it. It's just like this is like the way. It's just a big pit. It's just like this sucks.
In fact,
maybe that's
sure
not
those are the
actually a
only
problem with sandblasted corridors. So, sandblasted corridors actually has not very many overly bad things about it. It's got some really big positives. The one-hit terrain is
amazing.
wonderful.
I think
it's visually fine. It delivers its premise. It's very clearly a sandy, deserty place.
Yeah.
You never don't feel like you're in a
and I think it's
place made of
interesting
sand.
that they really doubled down on gigantic rooms in the Sandblasted. But admittedly, that is both as much as a cool positive as it is a pretty big negative.
Well, I might be able to downplay this.
If you don't have a scout, you're not seeing the roof. You're not seeing any of the things like higher than the.
Okay, that's
the
pretty
floor.
fair. Yeah.
Yeah. And
really big rooms can be quite difficult to deal with if you don't have a scout.
Yeah.
Which is maybe it's just a good thing for scout, one that is a bad thing about the biome. I don't know.
Yeah. But so I guess I don't really want to go into this, but if you were to read that as it were, and the other thing, Scout is a better pick for Sandblasted than Driller because you don't need the drills when everyone can one mine it. So
yeah, definitely. Sandblasted's like the best for Scout.
Yeah, because he could also just pickaxe his way into like things when he grapples.
And just big rooms is just better for Scout anyway.
Yeah. So
more room to grapple.
While that isn't inherently a negative or positive, which is something worth mentioning, I guess. But I do like them, but I also often get very pissed at them. Like, honestly, kind of more than other places. So I think I would put it at a C. I don't know. I think more often than not, I wish I wasn't there. Or at the very least, it brings me the same level of annoyance of getting around or stuff I have to deal with as the fungus bogs.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, they are kind of opposites, though.
Well, yeah,
as in, the fungus bogs is quite tight.
Yeah,
there's a lot of vegetation. Sandblasted corridors is like very big open spaces with basically no vegetation. Yeah. But I mean, you're probably right. I don't really have any love for the sandblasted corridors. Okay, sure, you can put it in C. I don't mind. I'm not opposed to it.
Where would you just put it in, like B?
Yeah, so I'm not really too decided.
But would you feel comfortable putting that next to your radioactive exclusion zone?
Well, I'm not comfortable putting the other two there next to the radioactive exclusion zone.
Right. Okay. Honestly, I don't know why I'm resisting. It's a bit like the grappling hook all over again. Not that they saw that footage because it got corrupted, but I think I will put the radioactive in A.
It's the simple one that belongs in A.
It's the simple one that works. Opinion. Yeah.
Out of the simple ones, it's the one that's at the top of the simple ones. It's the one, unlike Mr. Saltpits.
So Sandblasted in B then, because I think I'm fine with that.
Okay. I mean, I don't know if that's necessary.
You just I don't know.
Maybe it should be in C. I don't know.
Well, you kind of need to figure it out.
You figure it out. I said I don't mind.
Yeah, but that's not helpful.
Do you mind?
I don't know what I
Do you
mind.
care? Neither do I.
That's an issue. We need
So
to
put in
figure it out.
B. So put in B.
It's in B.
We've only got one more. We've only got...
Alright.
Wait, no, we don't. Where's the shallow grotto? Where's the,
Shut up.
the tutorial biome. The tutorial.
No one knows what you're on about. You're
Why
lying.
don't they just add it?
It's not real.
Why don't they just make it?
They
I know why they don't, because it's like a hybrid of like weird shit. It's like dense biozone but pale and with less stuff in it. That's what it is. It's like anyway, we're going to talk about salt pits. This is where I go to get
Alright guys, I think we're about done for time. You're gonna have to, Harry.
We don't have enough time for this.
Can't talk about salt pits.
I'm not gonna run. So one thing I actually don't like about it.
And you've been trying to start it on every podcast for the last. Yeah. You gave up at a point, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I didn't. I mentioned it last time.
No.
I think salt pits. There's only one thing I don't like about the salt pits. It's the main hazard.
The
It's
salt.
called
It gives
Corona
you aneurysms.
younglings. Corona younglings, not difficult to kill, just very, very annoying sometimes.
And there can be quite a lot of them.
There
Very
can be
often,
quite a lot of
there's
them.
actually a lot of them.
Yes. Apart from that, it's pretty decent. I'm not blind to it. It's fairly simple, but it's got a nice contrast, nice rich red and white.
Yeah, I think
it's not particularly plain. It's got lots of nice salt formations. It doesn't really have any fauna, but it makes up for it with just lots of salt.
Yeah. And as far as like the bog standard like floor and wall color schemes, it's probably my top actually. I think I don't know, the very nice red walls with the white floor just works. It just looks good, but they don't really do anything else with it.
No, it is quite simple. It's got stalactites, but they're not special to it. They're made of salt. I guess that's special. It's got big salt formations that rise up out of the ground. It's got the weird shells. It's just a lot of salt.
Yeah,
it's just a lot of salt.
It's a very
salt. The whole thing's made of salt. The whole thing is made of salt. It's got these platforms that sort of crumble, which is there's not as many of them, and they're worse in general than the ones in Glacial Strata. So I don't consider them much of a positive, especially considering they crumble.
Yeah, I forget about that.
But yeah,
I think I don't know. Yeah,
it's one of the most sandboxy. As in, it would be the one where it's just best to just use as like a testing ground almost. But there's younglings, the Corona younglings do throw me off sometimes.
Yeah,
they have potential to be really annoying and actually really dangerous. Not themselves.
And
they never end up doing the killing, but they can do it if they fling you far enough.
Yeah, but they also have a very strong potential because of how the cave generation works to get stuck in holes. Very often does the salt pits just in the middle of their big rooms have giant drops in the middle of them that all the little coronas get stuck in. Like, do you notice that? Like, very often.
Yes, I do. Yeah, I think that's deliberate. I think it's actually like their breeding ground. Maybe. I think that's where they're born. I think that might actually be a thing. Because that's the point. That's why they're there, because the Corona shells are made of salt. And the salt pits are their breeding ground.
Right, so then they go from there out. And
yeah.
You know what? I don't like this place as much now. In fact, this is
where the shellbacks come from.
Of the thing that I guess they're not the thing I hate the most, but I think they are the most annoying thing in the game. They are just, you can't really beat them.
So yes, I mean, salt pits, like we said, visually appealing, but not particularly beautiful, in my opinion. Anyway, that's one of the things that the Exclusion Zone beats out on, and the fact that I just prefer the Exclusion Zone conceptually, and the hazards that it offers are less annoying and actually nice to look at. So salt pits, as fairly neutral as it is neutral. There's nothing about it that I have much praise for. Not extreme praise. Like I said, I like the colours. I like the colours.
Yeah.
I like salt. But it is probably I'd like to say the most B tier biome, but probably if we're going to put Crystalline Caverns down eventually, felt it sort of sits in the middle, where I think it's technically less plain than Crystalline Caverns or the Radioactive Exclusion Zone, but it's more neutral. You're never really fucked over by the generation. The only thing that can ever really fuck you over is sometimes the young legs, but that's weirdly situational.
That the generation helps you with even sometimes.
Yeah. So
I think if we bring the Crystalline down to C, I can put this in B, and then
alright.
So we will have like, I don't know, levels of boring or simple ass ones.
It's a staircase. Upside down. Upside down. You are
going downstairs.
Downside up.
Well, if you think of the pictures being the wall, then the staircase is going normal.
I can't do that though.
Okay.
Don't have the imagination.
Now, I often like having first of all, summary, but also I like to have a definitive S&D. And you probably noticed that if you've watched our other ones.
Well, we have a definitive D, but at the same time, I like having a good spread of like equally cool, great biomes.
The shape is pleasant, but I'm gonna have to force an S.
the way to do this is to decide which ones shouldn't be an S.
Yeah, which I think is Azure World. I think.
And when I rack my head around, the thing is, I've kind of done it already.
Okay.
In my head, and I can't think of a reason to not put the Glacial Strata in S.
Now, the thing is with that, Harry,
but actually, you know what?
I
say I went
because
maybe we should go through it anyway because I didn't really.
All right, we'll do it quickly because we don't want to take everyone. If you just want to call it a day,
we do want to take your time. Call it a day.
This will, like, you can tick your box and leave your right comment that the Hollow Bro is that high up, and that you love the Crystalline Caverns, because those are, if we had to bet, the ones that we're going to get shit for. But
I don't think anyone loves the Crystalline Caverns.
Yeah, but I think we put it at C, which might get some people riled up. But I think it belongs there in comparison to the others. But yeah, I think Azure World as
lots of nice stuff, but it's almost like we said, it's sort of problem. It's very abstract and, in my opinion, quite artificial. But at the same time, I don't like the fact that it is just good stuff.
Yeah. Well, I think that is the thing. That there's no hazardous anything other than the glyphids, of course, which results in the main issue being always there in its darkness. So compared to the other ones, it is a constant issue, which you can also put against the hollow Brut, in that, like, as much as I don't mind the hazardousness of the nature of it, it does also make it difficult to deal with, in that it can and very will easily kill you.
Yeah, but that's, in my opinion, when you take something like those two in contrast, that's what gives the Hollow Bow an edge. Because as beautiful as I think the Azure World is, and as much as I like certain things about it, it's not very engaging.
It does end up kind of,
Bow. Unless
you dick around with the Cave Angels, you do kind of just complete the mission.
And that's the thing. Like we said, Hollow Bow is maybe a bit too hazardous. The Radioactive Exclusion Zone has hazards, but it's not that engaging in that sense.
Yeah.
And the Glacial Strata sort of has a better balance, I think.
Well, I think overall, I think the Glacial Strata rides the line between hazardous but also kind of controllable. Like, if you play smart enough, there isn't really a hazard, but if you play dumb enough, it will kill you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, if you let yourself get frozen at the wrong time, you'll get murdered. But if you're constantly on edge, well, not on edge, but on top of that, and you're constantly...
I'm always on edge.
Always edging. But if,
no, Chris Pine's character from the Dungeons and Dragons movie is called Edging the Bard. And then it's like, the Twitter account, it's like, Chris Pine is edging the Bard. And you're like, he's what? He's what? He's doing what to the Bard? Anyway... Glacial Strata, good balance of hazards and boons. I like calling them boons.
I can tell.
It's very beautiful, but very visible, unlike the Azure Wonk.
I think it really is like maybe not the most standout in or unique in its design, but it really does it well.
Well, it
Ice
has one of the most
Cave.
unique hazards.
Yeah.
Because you take Magma Core, the fire aspect only really comes from the hazards. Which I know sounds stupid, but they sort of set you on fire, but then you
There
just
is
sort of
also
cool
another
down.
thing.
Your freeze level doesn't go away.
I
Like
forgot.
fire.
I forgot about in because there is a lot in the the cryo zone, but there's
cryo
also the
zone.
little orbs that if popped freeze, and while
Yeah, I did
that
mention
can
those.
screw
They're
you
very
over, you often can use them against enemies, and they are very handy.
And I do.
So I think there really is. There's like if you play it well enough, you never really will experience a hazard, but it is there. You often can actually benefit from the environment, and it can often be quite fun with the black ice
Do
and
we
stuff.
need to bring up the cryo cannon issue?
Well, I think the thing is, Harry, is that I don't think it's real, considering I use the cryo cannon on it anyway.
No, I think you're right. It was never the thing that... Because the cryo cannon was the king, despite the Glacial Strata. So, forget about it.
Yeah, I think if there is an S, and it's not by much, bear in mind, it's going to have to be the Glacial
I don't
Strata.
think it's by much. No. I think it's the hollow bow and the radiant exclusion zone sort of on their own can't make it because
Yeah.
they just have a few things that are sort of out of place or a few things that are missing that sort of hold it back. But it's very slight, I think.
Yeah.
In the Glacial Strata, it's only slightly better. It's not that the others are slightly worse. It's not that way round. They're all closer to A than S, including the Glacial Strata. It's closer to A than S, but it's just slightly above the rest, which is such a weird conclusion, in my opinion. It's not where I thought this would go.
Good.
When we started,
That was my plan.
Even though I knew I liked the Glacial Strata, it's not where I thought we'd end up.
I went into this hoping I would kind of screw up your plan, and it seems like I did it.
What? I didn't really have a plan.
Yeah, but tough.
I screwed up my plan, everyone.
Yeah.
Congratulate him.
And I think generally, otherwise, I think S and A's we're fine. B's, I feel about right.
Yeah, you kind of just need to be like...
They're fine.
I can't put this any higher, but I like these guys, kind of, you know? Nader Sight, Shocker's big problem. Dense Biozone can have some real funky stuff going on. Salt Pits is the most... Can we agree that's probably the most B? Because one of the main reasons we put the other two in B is because they have quite extreme potential.
Both
sometimes.
ends. They can really fuck you over, or it could be a very pleasant time. It really varies.
Yeah. Salt Pits is the most consistent. It just has like a weird...
Very light hazard with a very generic, bland, but nice-looking environment.
Yeah, it's pretty nice to look at. They're all quite nice. What's the ugliest biome? Because the truth of it is probably fungus bogs, even though I like the look of it. So that's weird. That's probably a testament to their talents.
Honestly, I disagree with you, because I think, right, if let's just say, generally, statistically, probably, but I think if you were to pick like an amazing screenshot of each biome, the dense biozone will look the worst.
Actually, you know what? You're right. Dense biozone is definitely the ugliest.
Yeah, because literally looking at the screenshots here, they didn't pick a good one for the Crystalline Caverns, but we know how good the Crystalline Caverns can be. But yeah, the dense biozone just kind of falls apart due to its weird color choices and it generally lacking cohesion.
It's not pretty.
Yeah.
There's nothing graceful about the dense biozone. There's no like high contrast. Like at least like the Magma Core has can be quite striking. Or, the flaring magma fire in the darkness is quite a striking image. The dense biozone is quite cluttered but also flat. So yeah, definitely the ugliest.
Yeah.
I'm not.
So that was
pretty easy. None of
the extra little tier list for you there.
We should do that. What's the most ugly biome?
Well, I think we probably
ranked in terms of.
we could literally do it now, because S tier I would put as hollow brow, bro.
Oh, what? This in terms of looks?
Yeah, pure looks.
Oh, okay. No, this is different because honestly, Hollow Bow is kind of rude looking. It's very pretty, so I don't really know how would.
Okay, maybe not.
It's not as
pretty,
defined.
like a pretty little princess, but like how like when if you like look at it, you're like, yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Okay, Hollow Bell's pretty up there.
And maybe
Hollow
not
Bell's
as
pretty up there.
Glacial
Exclusion Zone's
Strata.
pretty up there. Well, Glacial Strata's very pretty.
Honestly,
Exclusion Zone's like a middle ground.
the current list we have here isn't far off what it would be, really.
No, because that plays into it.
Yeah.
It's a big factor in what makes a bio, like how good it is to play on.
Although
It's the
admittedly,
visual aspect.
I think our C's and D's would probably end up being above our B's. Because I think the Fungus Bogs, Crystalline Caverns,
yeah.
they would probably I think they're better than the sandblasted salt pits and that. So, but yeah, I think at this point we're kind of pulling for time. But the point is,
What are you talking about?
this is
All right, now let's rank them in
alphabetical order.
Alphabetical order. They are. They started off that way. As you will, Crystalline Caverns. That's why Sandblasted was last, because technically it's alphabetically last, even though we did it before Salt Pits.
So, does that mean that my one was right and your one was wrong?
Yeah, but even though we used the same tier list. Thank you to Necro Guru for making this tier list.
Oh, I didn't know they had his name there. Yep, thanks. Because Harry cannot seem to get this website to work, so the fact you managed to...
That's the thing. I feel like I should say that. I tried to make tier lists, and I would make pretty much all the ones... We'd be able to do more than there are on the website if I could use it.
Yeah.
We wanted to do frameworks, weapon frameworks. I've tried, guys. I really have.
Yeah, so if any one of you actually can or know how to make a tier list, and either want to do it yourself and help us, or just like tell Harry how to do
Oh
it
my
in a
god!
comment,
Okay,
it's up to you.
If you make us a weapon framework tier list, I will be happy.
You heard the man. He will be happy, and do you not want to bring
You know
joy?
what? That's good enough.
And you know what else is good enough? The length of this video. Thank you for watching. This has been a whale of a time.
Barrel Vision production.
Yeah. I hope that you agree, and if you don't, oh
Go
well.
away.
Yeah, it's really a
No,
bit of a...
leave your opinions in the comment. Leave your likes in the section. Subscribe your comments.
People often do, but there's not much
share
I
the
can
video.
like.
We'll be doing ourselves.
Yeah, not I can really like respond to about it though, because like people were like, "Oh, this A, this B, this C." I'm like, I can't refute you on that. You know my arguments. I'd just be rehashing it with you, and you're not explaining yours. So I'll just,
But you don't have to explain. Don't feel pressed to explain. Just leave your rankings.
Yeah.
It's cool.
And if you feel like telling us
easy
why we're
comments.
wrong,
It's easy. It's easy engagement. You just have to type a few letters. That's all you have to do.
come on, guys, it's not that hard. You just got to make us a tier list, comment our videos, show off our videos to your entire family, extended and all. Come on, guys.
Okay, I'm going to use our new sign off.
All right, you're trying to do
A new
that.
one. Yeah. Today's Friday in California.
I don't know why you keep doing that.
Rock and stone, everyone. Goodbye.
Rock and stone.
That's good, isn't it?